All right, we're here. We're live.
We're here. We're live. What's up?
Sam, do you have a monologue for this, or are we just
What kind of monologue are you talking about?
just play the music? Just play the music.
Play the music.
Little clap, so you know
Get that
that's
shit
when it is.
Leicester City are still alive here. Balotelli, Aguero! Back, Fuchs, and the ball in behind Damian Bunny! It's 11! It's heaven for Jamie Vardy!
You are an ostrich. Well, your head must be in the sand. Is your head in the sand? Are you flexible enough to get your head in the sand?
Now the fans are shouting every week, Louis van Gaal's army! Louis van Gaal's army!
Feet after a fabulous start, the game just got away from you there.
I have nothing to say.
Nothing to say about the game at all.
Drama from day one! This is the league we want to watch!
All right, Matchweek 37 in the books. Massive implications in regards to the top four race.
To all the stuff that doesn't really matter as much as the title. But that's okay.
That's all that really matters. So, first match, would we have Southampton Leeds as the first match?
No, first match is Man U Fulham.
You had Man U Fulham as the first match?
Man U Fulham, first match,
Okay.
just as I had presented. Hank, get it together, please. Okay. Episode 1, everybody. Unprofessional. So, a 1-1 draw for Man U and Fulham. What'd you think of this game?
It's hard to judge what this means for either team because Man U they technically could have lost second place if Leicester would have beat Chelsea, but
Right.
given that, obviously we know that Leicester lost, but there really is not much on the line. Man U's not moving up or down. Fulham already relegated, maybe play younger guys just to see if they have anything with those guys, but other than that, there's not really much to build off of in terms of performances and momentum for next year.
Yeah, the Fulham lineup looked pretty standard for Fulham, other than an appearance from Tim Ream, who doesn't really play much anymore.
The American.
As he rides off into the sunset. Pretty much the same. Man U.
They've been playing Tanzebe lately.
Yeah,
And-
no Maguire, which is a big miss for them. He's really the
Anytime.
rock of
it's one of those things. He's
central
one of those
defense.
guys where even though he's kind of a living meme, if you look at the stats and if you watch, he passes the eye test and he passes the stats.
Yeah.
He's clearly their best guy and one of the best in the Premier League.
right, and that just showed with the goal they gave up to Brian.
Yeah, at the far post. I mean,
You'd think that'd be one that they wouldn't score if
and that
Maguire was.
it's probably a mix of both that we're just talking about, of Maguire not being back there. They don't have their rock at the back line, but also they don't have much to play for, maybe a little more lackadaisical. But I
Right,
mean,
yeah.
it probably is more so that Maguire's not back there, because I feel like whenever you watch Man U and they've had slip-ups, mainly earlier on in the season, a lot of times I felt like it was Lindelof, sometimes Wan-Bissaka, sometimes Shaw, but occasionally, but not very often, it was Maguire.
Yeah, I think, of course, every player is going to make mistakes, but I think when you have the price tag like Maguire does,
Yeah, you're going to be under a microscope more.
people are going to call you out for your mistakes. But like you said, I think Lindelof was more of a liability.
True, yeah, I think for sure. And that's what I was saying. I mean, most of the times that there are errors you'd see on like Twitter, or if you're watching the game, it's just like it's the other guys more so than Maguire. But then
Right.
when Maguire does have one, generally it's pretty bad. It's pretty funny.
Yeah, that's true.
And then
Oh, slabhead.
Slabby.
Slabhead.
Other notes from the game: the chip from Cavani.
Cavani!
It was pretty incredible.
That was amazing.
It was. What were you gonna say?
I was just going to say, he looked like he was in behind, which he was.
And then he
pulls up for the chip. And I'm like, what are you doing? Why are you? You have a one-on-one with the keeper.
Mm-hmm.
And then it goes in, and I'm like, oh my God, that was amazing.
And that's just Cavani's class that he brings. Not as good as it used to be, obviously, but
it's pretty interesting though. Cavani kind of went from this like, oh, he doesn't want to be there anymore, and he wants to leave. He doesn't like England anymore.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, they really need him, and he scores some important goals.
Yeah.
Especially in the Champions League Europa League.
Yeah, to send him through.
Against Roma, he had some big games.
Yeah, and just like general kind of takeaways from the game. Man U kind of dominated the first half, even though the score, it was 1-0. So technically, it showed. But second half, Fulham kind of possessed more than you would think Fulham would possess against a top 6 club.
I was pretty impressed with the way Fulham were playing. They weren't just sitting back and absorbing pressure, which they haven't been doing that all season. Their
Parker
team
has them going for it a lot of times.
Does like to play some nice football, and it shows. And I was just sitting there watching the game, and I'm thinking, why is this team getting relegated? They played really nice.
It's just lack of quality. The play style's not in the wrong place. Parker's a good manager. It's just the quality's just probably not there player-wise.
I think early on in the season, the lack of a solid finisher really hurt them. Mm-hmm. Slow start kind of put them behind everyone out the gate.
And when you saw them get Josh Maja, he even provided some important goals, and they gave him a glimmer of hope in terms of they might stay up. There's a chance, but too little, too late. I'd say one other note from this game that I noticed, it felt like Fernandes should have scored at least once. And I'm not just talking about the free kick that hit the post. It felt like there were like 2 or 3 times he just had like rips right outside the box or right on the edge of the box and force Ariel and make good save.
That was something I noticed as well. They were creating chances, but ultimately the quality of the chances weren't the best. And I think Man U was really possessing the ball well in midfield and passing freely, and it looked really nice. But push come to shove, they're not getting good chances on goal.
Yeah, that's true. Not the highest of quality. Other than that, there's not much to touch on in this game. Yep. I think everybody kind of knows that there's only...
Oh, and one thing, the fans are back, of course.
Oh, with the Glazer protests?
The Glazers out, but also fans back in the stands.
If I'm remembering correctly, was it like green and yellow signs?
Yes, green and yellow Glazer out.
I don't know why.
I don't know.
Color money.
But fans back in the stands. Well, they were kind of back last week when they...
Mm-hmm. And you could notice, there's one game, and I'll mention it when we get to it. I genuinely didn't notice until like the 40th minute. I was like, oh, they actually have fans there. They couldn't notice.
I thought overall it's just great to have the fans back. It provides so much entertainment
Massive
value.
Part of the game.
I think it's disappointing that they were only able to do it with 2 weeks to go in the season. Mm-hmm. I think that also could have changed some outcomes maybe for some teams.
Oh, absolutely. Anytime that there's some places really have a raucous crowd and can give you that home field advantage.
Right. So moving on to the next match.
There it is.
There it is. Southampton Leeds.
About time.
Big Leeds fan here.
All right. So with this one, this is the pre-match notes. Walcott, new deal. In terms of the lineup, not a ton of changes for Southampton. They've kind of kept the same lineup. I know that they've had some injury issues with some of their wingers and stuff. Ings has been coming off the bench a little more lately, and they always are rotating. Not always, but they've been rotating their goalies a lot. What seems like the last couple of years.
Right, it's like every other game. It's a new keeper.
It's between Forrester, McCarty. They have... They used to have Agnes Gunn. They can't really get stable goalkeeping. And it makes sense if we talked about the eye test before and the stats with Maguire. If you look at the eye test and the stats with their goalies, they're just not good. They're generally bottom 3 with whichever one it is.
Yeah, it's there. Like, okay, we'll put in the other guy. He's got to be better. And then they're like, oh, wait, no.
They're trying to ride the hot hand.
He's actually bad.
They're trying to ride the hot hand, but nobody has the hot hand.
Yeah.
They're like,
someone's got to have a hot hand somewhere.
Anybody.
One thing I noticed about the Southampton lineup, they got Nathan Tella in there up front, youngster.
We got notes on him.
We got notes. And then Leeds, Kiko Casilla, the terrible person that he is, in net for some reason. I don't know. I don't know why he's still on the team.
I mean, how high? Do we know his wages? I don't.
Probably
I think they're
much.
high. Yeah, I think they're high, especially for a backup,
And
let
he's
alone
not
his
a
quality.
good person. He's not good, and he's not a good person.
So the main parts of this game, Southampton got off to a very quick start. They were really pushing the ball forward, but they couldn't really capitalize. They just, and that has to be demoralizing for them when you're getting looks on net, and whether they get blocked at the last second, or you have. I know that there was one play where Shea Adams was going kind of across the box, and he threw like a kind of shot cross mix in there, and it just wasn't good. It was virtually a breakaway, and it's like you have to do better than that.
Right. Yeah, I noticed Leeds just had a really terrible start. They were giving away everything. I saw a stat they had 75% passing. It looked like they had like 25%.
Yeah,
it was so bad.
It was bad. You could, if it's funny, if you go back and watch Bielsa from like minutes 20 to 30. He's like freaking out. He's on the verge of like a breakdown.
I don't blame him. I was on the verge of a breakdown. It was
terrible to watch.
Some bright spots in the first half for Southampton. I thought Salisu looked really well, covering down the flank. He had quite a number of good stops. James Ward-Prowse, of course, he's always looking good in there. Stuart Armstrong was all over the place. I thought he looked really impressive in this game.
I was surprised, I guess not necessarily early on, but first half, it felt like Leeds was really trying to push, kind of going for crosses. And I mean, Vestergaard's not like the best center back, but I mean, he's like 6'5", 6'6", and they have Jack Stevens too. He's pretty decent at clearing the ball on headers. I mean, and they're not the most aerial threat team with. They got Roberts, Rafinha, and Bamford. I mean, they can win headers, but it's not ideal.
Right. You're not expecting Pat Bamford to get on the end of crosses with his head.
They're going to beat you with passing sequences and stuff. So
right.
I just thought that was weird that whenever they got it, they were in swinging it quickly.
So going into the second half, Leeds looked much better, I thought. And
specifically on defense, which came from a tactical adjustment from Bielsa, which was to have Luke Ayling come more centrally, and he was just kind of a sweeper. And Southampton was really pushing down the middle. They didn't have much width, so that adjustment really worked well for Leeds. And just touching on Leeds defense, it seemed like that was always going to be their main thing coming into this year, was always going to be how did the defense hold up,
right.
Especially given how they did in the championship last year. It wasn't going to be goals. It's going to be how well can they defend. And they've had slip-ups here and there, but I feel like since the start of the new year, it hasn't been nearly as bad as early in the year and then obviously last year.
Yeah, I think they've kind of grown into the league and understand what they need to do with the way that they play going forward. At times they compromise their defense
for attacking.
But that's just the way they play.
Yeah.
And the fact of the matter is that they run a lot more than any other team, and they're going to run down teams.
Yeah.
And even if they're down 2-0, you shouldn't count them out because they're going to keep running.
Yeah. I mean, and we should talk about how important some of their defenders are in attack. Ayling at times can be a good in-swinger.
Yep.
And, I mean, Harrison, he's kind of more of a midfielder, but kind of a wing-back in a way. He'll get forward, great crosser. Stuart Dallas, obviously, gets forward, can score goals for him. So, just kudos to their defense.
Yeah, the goal for Leeds, it seemed like it kind of took the momentum right out of Southampton. It was against a run of play kind of, and a weird little fluky goal.
I mean, if you don't capitalize eventually, more than likely, if the team has quality, which Leeds does, the opponent's just going to punish you. Southampton wasn't capitalizing on having more possession, having the better chances, and then out of nowhere, Rodrigo, probably his best play of the year, with a nice little dink pass over the top to Bamford. And Bamford, I mean, he's just probably one of the top 5 finishers in the Premier League this year, and he slots it between the keeper's legs.
Mm-hmm.
Although could have easily been saved.
Yeah, I was going to say, McCarthy could have done better on that one. Most
like
likely.
Off his leg and in.
Yeah, it was pretty disappointing for that goal, and just kind of took the momentum out of Southampton.
Mm-hmm.
They had more.
They did rally towards the end and kind of held possession, but it was the same exact thing. It was like either half chances or they just didn't convert on them.
Right, Leeds defense looked pretty solid back there, especially with Ayling helping sweep up everything else.
And then for their final goal, Roberts, I mean, that's just Southampton going for it. They had to.
Right, yep.
They had to go for it, and they got caught like 3-on-1 or whatever. And then Bamford took a shot, went right at McCarthy, and then right back to Roberts, pokes it in.
So. So next game. Match of the week
for me.
What do we got?
This was your match of the week.
Brighton Man City. This game was amazing.
It was a good game. I would honestly say the first one has to be Leicester Chelsea just for the implications, but I would say this was probably tied or maybe a notch below the Southampton Leeds game. I really liked that game. Let's see, what do we got here? We got Brighton Man City.
Yeah, so right away, Man City scored second minute. Gundogan.
The header, yeah.
Just super easy off the back post from across from Mahrez.
It must have just caught Brighton asleep. I don't know what it was because he was just wide open back post. I mean, it was a great cross, but to virtually not be marked.
They got caught up in the joys of the fans returning to the Amex.
Yeah, the Amex.
The fans didn't even have a chance to sit down before they conceded the goal. But then, a turn of events. João Cancelo fails to clear the ball. Takes out Danny Welbeck, the flailing Danny Welbeck, last man back.
They were just having so much trouble with balls over the top. Even before that, I made a note. They were just having any ball that was over the top, they just weren't controlling. I don't know what that was. It wasn't just Cancelo either. It was Diaz had one, but it led to a red card, completely changed the game, obviously.
Yeah, for sure. Finished halftime 1-0 City, but Brighton obviously been pushing pretty hard since the red card.
Mm-hmm. And they had moments.
Yep,
I would say, but nothing amazing. What were your thoughts on the red card? I mean, it's a clear goal scoring chance. It was the foul itself was kind of soft, but since it's a clear goal scoring chance, you feel like
I think it's just kind of one of those where it's like, there's not a whole lot in it, but it's just kind of what it is, and it's gonna get called like every time.
Yeah.
Then going into the second half, Man City kind of against the run of play. Phil Foden scores early. And Brighton finds themselves down 2-0 with a man advantage.
Yeah, and that one again was just quick right after the start of half. I can't say I've seen Brighton get beat like that early on, just at the start of the game and then at the start of another half. I don't know what.
It seems like Brighton is usually the team who starts out strong.
Yeah, and I mean, part of that is just they hold for a lower rung team. They hold possession pretty well.
Yes.
Even I know we were talking about Fulham earlier trying to do stuff like that, but they do that even better than I'd say almost any bottom half of the table team.
Yeah.
I mean, you look at this game, I think the possession finished like 63% in favor of Brighton.
Right.
I mean, part of that's Man City having 10, they're up 2, they're going to sit back, but
yeah, it's also a position that Man City doesn't find themselves in very often where they're not the ones with the ball. because they're always the ones controlling the game, death grip of the game.
Yeah.
But I got to say, Phil Foden, that was an amazing
It was a great
run.
Yeah, from his own half.
From his own half. It was amazing. I mean, it just shows his quality.
Yeah.
But then Brighton really bounced back. Trossard entering the game, instant impact.
Yeah. Like he came in a little earlier in that because I think Welbeck got hurt, didn't he?
Oh,
And
yeah,
you're
right. You're right.
In.
Yep.
But yeah, I mean, he's just one of those guys that I like. He might not be the best player in the league or on the team, but he's just one of those guys. I watch him. I feel like anytime I watch him, he has an impact on creating chances for his team. And you saw it here. It was a pretty sloppy giveaway by City.
Yeah.
Gets it, makes a nice run, dangles like 4 or 5 Man City guys.
Is he going to shoot? Is he
Yeah.
going to shoot? Is
And
he going to
then
shoot?
Finally has not the best of shots, but a good enough shot. Near post, season of near post goals.
Most of the
Sam
time
says.
that happens, it's just like, okay, well, you tried to fake him out like 4 times, and then you just get your shot blocked.
Or a defender just finally takes it.
Yeah.
But no, that time it was class from Trossard.
That's right, near post. Lovely.
And at this point in the game, I was like, oh, I just want to take a look at Brighton's season. And next episode, we'll just kind of touch more on teams, kind of recap their season and whatnot. But it's really been a strange year for them. There's like no pattern to their results in terms of what they're getting. And you look and you see they've had some success against top 7 teams, and then they'll lose to Sheffield 1-0, and they'll get like no shots. It's the weirdest thing. I'd say like the only consistency I saw was they beat Newcastle 3-0 twice this year. That's the only thing that I saw that was like, okay.
Unlucky Steve Bruce.
Oh, Bruce Ball.
Yeah, I thought though when Trossard scored, the energy just changed. And I think this is one of those games where having the fans there really helped.
Yeah, it got him back in.
And they got a big boost off of that, and it's like, okay, we're right back in this. We can score. And they did. I mean, one player who stood out to me, Ben White, really looked strong in that game.
You can see why. I mean, he had a good year at Leeds last year in the Championship, but you can see why Leeds tried to buy him for, I think, they offered like 30 mil. And I mean, you can see why Brighton's like, no, even though they have Lewis Dunk, who's solid. Adam Webster's all right. Dan Burn.
My guy, Dan Burn. More to come.
More to
Stay
come
tuned.
from Dan Burn. But you can see why they held on to Ben White. He's a really good player.
Yeah, I think maybe a couple of years he goes to a Big 6 club.
I put the path he's on. I wouldn't surprise me if he's at City or Chelsea or
I mean, he's easily better than any player on Tottenham.
Yeah.
In the defense.
Are you sure? Are we sure?
Maybe not Eric Dyer. Shout out Eric Dyer.
Well, if we're gonna have a long talk about that game. And then they got a second one, 72nd minute, Webster. Just another headed ball in the back of the net. I was surprised that Man City gave up that headed goal. Even though they're not like the most aerial dominant team, their defenders are.
Yeah.
Their defenders definitely are. All of them, even the injured ones that are not playing right now.
Yeah, you think Brighton, though, they have a lot of tall guys. You think they'd score more from headers or set pieces, but it turns out that they don't really, which is kind of strange. But then just a few minutes after that, the comeback fully completed. My guy, Dan Burn.
First goal.
First goal
for the club.
That was just one of those amazing moments. Like, I was so glad there were fans there. You could see what it meant to him. After he scored, he was just laying on the ground, like so happy
Ecstatic.
that he scored.
That's why we play the game.
That's why we love this league, because amazing things can happen, even in games that have
might not mean a ton.
No implications.
And you just don't know what's going to happen. As far as this goal, it was a really well-worked goal.
Yeah.
I was very impressed. First, over the top, into space for Trossard. There he is again. There's his name. holds it up, kind of dribbles back, waits for people to come up, moves it centrally, and then McAllister, who's kind of like their false nine cam kind of player, in between the midfielders and the defense, and they both, the midfield and defense, step up onto him. He's able to feed the through ball centrally to Dan Burn and barely gets it in.
You know what amazes me? How much Dan Burn gets forward. It's like you wouldn't think he'd get forward very often, but he pops up here and there.
Well, first off, you wouldn't think he's like a fullback. He's like 6'6".
That's true. That's the magic of Dan Burn. That's why we love him. He's way too tall.
You're like, you think this guy's kind of like when Klopp used to use Steven Cocker like a striker.
Yeah.
You'd think it's kind of like that, but it's like you knew Steven Cocker was clearly a defender. Dan Burn can like kind of do stuff.
Yeah.
He's not like good at anything on offense, but he can do stuff.
For some reason, he just kind of fits in there.
Yeah.
Don't know why, but it's amazing. I know, I love it. So, great game.
Yeah, great game. There were a lot of missed opportunities in this game, I would say, but it kind of encapsulates the game and how it went. It's just kind of all over the board. No one really could see it coming. And even at the end, like Sanchez kind of like dropped like a ball like that, and if any Man City guy was there, they would have had a tap in. But great result for Brighton. Maybe something to build on going into next year. This year, you'd say disappointing because there hasn't been any growth for Brighton. It's just been like kind of hanging on by a thread.
And the way they play, you could see them.
There should be
growing into a better team.
Yeah.
But I think what really inhibits them from doing that is the lack of a quality goal scorer.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they have Neil Maupay, but he's just
not a 9.
He's not good enough.
Not a good enough 9, at least.
I don't know.
Did you see at the end Pep and Graham Potter?
I missed that.
They got into it. You need to go back and watch. They got into it. They started like I guess maybe it was an assistant, but Pep was in there and he's kind of pointing fingers, and Graham Potter's really puffing his chest.
Oh,
it was
I remember. Good. I don't know if he was complaining about the red card or
I don't know if it was a red card or if it was they were time wasting a little at the end. I think Sanchez even got a yellow for time wasting, but I just thought that was funny. I think anytime there's confrontation in the Premier League, it's absolutely hilarious.
Yeah, it is pretty amazing when guys like Pep or Klopp get really upset because they don't lose that much and they're like super bad losers and they get really salty.
They are. It's hilarious.
Like, no. That was not a pen. That was not a pen.
Undo the bottle of water. Take a sip. And then go sit back down, cross your arms with your open arms.
I'm glad you pointed that out.
The open
I
arms.
Noticed that as well.
He wears it every game. And last year he wore like that like almost like turtleneck,
the hood again.
Shawl thing. Yeah, it was weird.
Is it a hoodie? Is it a cardigan? No one knows.
No one knows. It's definitely not a poncho.
It's a fashion faux pas.
All right. So the next game, big game, probably biggest game, not necessarily best game, as you can tell. We have differing opinions, but biggest game in terms of top 4 race, rematch of the FA Cup final, Chelsea, Leicester. This is before we get in the game. I just want to say there was a time during the game where the announcer mentioned that if he was Leicester or Chelsea, he'd rather win the FA Cup than finish in the top 4. I just want to get your quick thoughts on that.
I think it depends on the stature of your club.
Mm-hmm.
It's hard
I hate to agree, but I'm going to have to agree.
It's hard to say when you're Leicester. I don't know if they've ever won the FA Cup before. They haven't.
This was their first one.
So that's a pretty important thing.
Yeah.
Especially after they won the title and then they win the FA Cup. That's really impressive.
Yeah.
I think historically, you'd say
you'll remember
FA
the FA Cup more.
But in terms of moving forward as a club, what
yeah.
Leicester want to be, they want to be a top 4 club.
Yeah, and I would just worry because last year during Project Restart, they blew it. Simply, they blew it. They were second and they finished 5th.
Yeah.
I mean, that has to have some effect. And now it's deja vu. It's Groundhog's Day again for them. They might very well finish 5th after being comfortably in the top 4 since I want to say like October.
Yeah, it feels like they exchanged the top 4 for the FA Cup.
Yeah, and it's, I mean, you're sending, I'm sure, I guess I can't say I'm sure, but you would think a player like, since Wes Morgan's retiring, a club legend, that it probably is more important to send that guy out with silverware than to just be like, oh, well, we made top 4 barely. And we got to, well, even then, like, you get to a cup final, but it means more to win it for a smaller club. Right. Not that Leicester's so much smaller than Chelsea in terms of results over the last few years, but
just historically what Leicester was and
what they're building their way. You can say that.
Yeah, it is amazing, and I think it's a proof of concept for smaller teams that it's possible.
Yeah.
Because you look at teams in the Big 6 or whatever. Mm-hmm. Look at teams like Arsenal. Look at teams like Tottenham. They're struggling.
Yeah.
There's
room to get in that.
They're quote
top
unquote
6.
the Big 6.
Yeah.
But they're like resting on their laurels and not actually fighting to be a Big 6 club anymore.
They're not playing like they are a Big 6 club. They're just sitting there with their legacy, whereas Leicester's going out. They're just being active in terms of getting better each day. I mean, they pull these guys. You see how many times, since we've been following the Premier League, have big clubs just struggled to either replace guys or they just splurge cash on a guy and he's just not very good. Leicester keeps pulling guys out of their butt. I don't know how they do it. You look at this year. I mean, Soyuncu was obviously bought a couple years ago and he was good last year. But this year, I mean, it feels like he's really, really established himself. And another guy, Fofana and Castagne from Atalanta, they just pull these guys out of nowhere and they're just perfect for their system. They're just high quality players, and this is why they're contending for the Champions League.
Yeah, I think that kind of goes further into it as a proof of concept. If you have the ambition, if you have correct scouting, I mean, this is a team that had scouts find guys like Mahrez and Conte and Vardy from nowhere.
Yeah.
And it's amazing. And then they say, okay, we'll get rid of our best guys minus Vardy.
Yeah.
Conte, Mahrez, Maguire, all gone, big money. But they reinvest it. They find more guys who aren't hidden gems, but they're under the radar.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
They're not making these fantastic big-name signings. But guess what? Teams that are doing that are realizing, like, that's a lot of money to put into one player, and if they flop, then...
Yeah. And I think an important point you touched on was keeping Vardy, keeping Schmeichel in that squad. That's still part of your core. They were massive. There were 4 guys, well, 4, if you want to include Wes Morgan, then it strengthens the case. But there were 4 or 5 guys on that title team that meant the world to them. They were irreplaceable, or so it seemed. Schmeichel, Vardy, Wes Morgan, obviously 3, and then Mahrez and Conte. And they haven't necessarily replaced Conte. I mean, how do you replace N'Golo Conte? He's world class. But they've done a good job of, even Wes Morgan now, he's kind of fallen back, obviously older. He's retiring now. But they've replaced him. They've replaced him with good quality players. Honestly, probably guys that were just as good, if not maybe better than Wes Morgan was that year that they won the title.
Right. It's amazing to think about the Wes Morgan and Robert Huth.
Yeah, pairing.
Center back pairing. It's
Did you see Christian Fuchs is leaving at the end of the year?
Oh, I didn't see
club
that.
legend. I think Matty James is too. He didn't play a ton their year they won, but he's still a rotation guy.
There was a time when I thought Christian Fuchs left the club, and then 2 years later he's still on
at the club,
and it's amazing. But even a guy like Johnny Evans, they picked him up for
cheap,
scraps.
Yeah, and he turned into a good player, and he's a team leader.
Yeah,
for them. So I mean,
and it makes you wonder why these other teams didn't go after him.
Mm-hmm. So I would say It probably is worth it for Leicester to win the FA Cup. For Chelsea, on the other hand, it is 1,000% not worth it to win the FA Cup for over the top four. So I think it might have worked out well.
Although you could say Leicester, though, they need a top four spot to really pull themselves forward.
I know.
I think
that's why I'm saying
the top four pulls you forward a lot farther than an FA Cup does, because
in terms of bringing players in,
an FA Cup is good for looking back at the good old days and say, "Oh, remember when we won the FA Cup? It was great."
Yeah, that's the small club mindset. And Leicester's trying to pretty much shed that. They're going
right.
Big club. Well, to the game. Really just Chelsea dominant to start off. It honestly kind of felt like the Arsenal game, except the chances I felt like were even better than the Arsenal game. And they didn't quite score. Timo Werner with two.
He was going for the hat trick of disallowed goals.
Yeah, that's honestly more impressive than a regular hat trick.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. But they were just crazy in terms of the pressing too. Like Leicester could not break out. Any clearance they got, the second ball, Chelsea was on it. Yep. There was just no hope for Leicester. There's a couple instances. We mentioned the VAR. There was a penalty shout for Werner. I think it technically was.
Yeah,
but
it was one of those weird ones where it's like
he clearly didn't mean to, but
by the rules of the law, then it's a penalty. But obviously, Tielemans is not looking at him at all.
Yeah, and Werner's in behind and slips in. Werner
slips in front of him as he's kicking. So,
but he does get Werner, as Werner
he does.
Technically is like he has the ball for 0.1 second, and
it's just one of those weird either way.
That's one of those where I wouldn't be upset that it wasn't called, because it is a 50-50 and you could see it either way.
Yeah.
They finally score. Timo Werner finally scores, ladies and gentlemen. He puts it in, and then it's disallowed again. I lied. He didn't score.
He didn't score.
He didn't score. So it goes in 0-0.
It was
Chelsea,
a really, really impressive first half by Chelsea. In the games I've watched of Chelsea under Tuchel, they have these moments of really nice football where they're playing really fast and they press, but it's only for like 5 to 10 minutes. I thought this game was proof that it's like, okay, wow, they're putting it together for a full half pretty much.
Yeah.
They're getting good chances, and I think it really shows the quality of the system.
Oh, yeah. I mean, this is what Tuchel did at Dortmund. It was just constant. They always outpossessed. They were never outpossessed, maybe by Bayern, and that's going against Guardiola Bayern. If they're going against like even Ancelotti or Kovac Bayern, a lot of times now Flick's gone, but doesn't matter. Wrong league. But you could just see, and you see a lot of, if you watch those Dortmund teams, you see a lot of that in this Chelsea system in terms of the cycling on the sides, quick passes, quick turns, getting in behind. And when it's 0-0, I mean, they've had to be demoralized, mainly because of the Arsenal result. They're like, well, we just got shut up by Arsenal. We just didn't score this half against Leicester. But I feel like with Tuchel's system, you just have to rely on it. You have to put all your faith into it and know that you'll eventually score if you're good enough quality.
So what were you thinking about it from a Leicester perspective? It was a pretty rough one, but they did manage to go without conceding.
They held on by the skin of their teeth. They held on, and you had to be going in thinking, okay, new half, Brendan Rodgers, if he makes the right adjustments, if we are a little quicker on the clearances, we could hit them on the counter. I mean, you know what Jamie Vardy's capable of. So that's what I would be thinking if I were a Leicester supporter at that time, trying to talk myself into this. And then 2 minutes in, Tony Rudiger just puts that to bed.
Yeah, some pretty awful zonal marking from Leicester.
Yeah.
I hate zonal marking, for the record. I hate it.
Tactics-wise, it's just not. I feel like it may work, but then when it doesn't, you're really kicking yourself.
Yeah.
But with the Rudiger goal, it kind of just feels like he's one of those guys where if it's like I guess it's going to be different because it's a condensed year. But if it's like a January game, like he can just have a horrible game and you're not surprised. But it feels like he shows up for the big games and for the big moments.
Yeah, he can have some real shockers.
Yeah, he can, exactly, on defense, and even if he has like a headed chance, he'll put it over or something when he should easily score. Leicester, little more getting into rhythm on attack, kind of, doing something, not really getting anywhere though.
Yeah, it needed a lot. I mean, it was a start, but it wasn't enough. And I mean, looking at the lineup, you see they went with Vardy up front alone instead of what they've been doing with
Vardy and Iheanacho.
And Iheanacho comes on later.
Yeah, we'll get to that. We'll get to that. 66th minute pen by Werner. Also another one, if it wasn't called, or if it was called outside the box, you couldn't have too much complaint about it. Because it was kind of soft. It's almost like the Cancelo one where it's like, it's a soft, in terms of physical, it was soft.
Yeah.
But technically, it's
a
in
penalty.
the box, foul, and then Jorginho.
I think it shows the inexperience of Fofana because Werner is running away
from goal.
More
it's
towards the corner.
Yeah, where's he going?
And I think that's the thing with Fofana. He's a great young player, but he does have those mistakes that comes with inexperience. I think some games he struggles with his passes, and some games he struggles with poor challenges. And like this one, a more experienced player probably wouldn't commit.
True. And then the pen itself, Jorginho slots it. He makes it look so easy. I don't know how. It almost looks like if you're the goalie, you're like, just don't commit, and then he won't know where to shoot. Because he literally just waits until the last possible second, then opposite way where the keeper commits.
His style is one of those that when he scores, it's like, wow, that was so cool, calm, and collected. And then when it gets saved, he's like, oh, you
everyone's
donkey.
Like, everyone's like, what are you doing?
Oh, you donut.
Very, very much like the Aguero penalty against Chelsea.
So at that point, Chelsea is up 2-0. Leicester trying to fight back. They bring on Iheanacho, and it made a big difference.
Yeah, I mean, he goes ahead and he scores about 10 minutes later. My boy Kovacic, he gave the ball away. He had great moments getting the ball up and winning the ball at times, and then I think it was Reece James passed it to him, and he had no idea. Ndidi was there. Had no clue Ndidi was there. Turns right into him, Ndidi strips it.
Yep.
Did Ndidi? I think he played it through to Iheanacho, and Iheanacho kind of made the move himself to slot it home. But yeah, it's.
So you're thinking they should have started Iheanacho?
It's hard to say because I mean Rodgers knows his team better than any of us, obviously. But you would think. I mean, if they've been rolling with this squad, this lineup for how long now, and they've been on a roll. You would think you just stick with Iheanacho, especially since he has there's been 2 games in the last 14 games or so that he hasn't scored.
Let me propose this to you, Hank. Say you play the same single striker system. Iheanacho over Vardy?
Yeah, I would. Vardy's been a little out of form, but I don't know. There's something to say about.
I think it's a different era of Vardy. He's getting kind of
later.
He does have quality. I think he shows it a lot he has some nice assists.
He knows where to be and what to do.
Yep.
And that's obviously you need guys like that, especially when your physical skills are going down. You have to be so mentally sharp as a player and know where guys are going to be, what you're going to do if the ball comes to you. And yeah,
I think it has worked nicely to have them 2 up front.
Yeah, they kind of go 1 and 2, and I wonder if clubs maybe are I mean, now they got to be looking for Iheanacho. But when they were doing that, I wonder if people are like, okay, we're going to focus a little more on Vardy.
Yeah.
And then that's just opening up Iheanacho.
Right. Yeah, I think Vardy is just kind of not as much of a goal scorer
as he used to be.
I think he just doesn't have that cutting edge
Yeah.
to get in behind and score, but he can play a good ball.
Even earlier this year, he had moment. He was in good form for a little stretch. I mean, not like the last few years, but he did have some moments. But Chelsea wraps it up. They hold on, even though there were some scares. Then there was an actual fight, an actual touchline fight.
Yes.
What was that about? What's going on?
That's a good question. I was hoping that after the game it would come out like, I think it was Amarte. He had that thing in the FA Cup where he took the Chelsea pennant and put it on the ground or something.
Mm-hmm.
The disrespect. Then Chelsea said, "Put some respect on my name." And then they scuffled.
And then Mason Mount was rolling around in pain.
And Mike Dean's just like,
Tony Rudiger wasn't having it.
I don't get paid enough to intervene in this.
He felt like a Walmart employee trying to break up a massive fight.
Absolutely.
He's like, nope.
But a big win for Chelsea to secure that top 4.
Going to third, game against Villa. We'll preview that later on.
Yep.
But massive, massive implications.
Yep.
Next, a game that has implications slightly. It could have potentially not had implications, but it did for Everton.
Everton's kind of a dark horse in the final Europa
Conference?
Conference?
The Europa Conference, the new competition. It's exciting.
They needed results to go their way, but they also had to win.
So with this game, early on, it felt like both the teams were like exchanging possession. They both hold the ball for like 5 minutes, and then the other team would take turn and hold the ball for 5 minutes. And there were no great chances until I'd say the best chance in the first like 20 minutes was when Troy like trucked Michael Keane. Do you remember?
Yeah.
He just like completely ran him over, and then the whistle's blown on him, and then he's like, "What? What do you mean?"
He like almost jumped over him.
Yeah, it was like, what the heck?
I thought it was pretty funny that Wolves, their game plan was like, okay, we're going to pass it to Traore. Mm-hmm. He's either going to win us a set piece or a corner kick.
Yeah.
And that's all we got.
I mean, and that's kind of how it's been this year. Without Jimenez, it's just been a struggle for a target man. But they had so many corners early on. They finished with 12, but I'm pretty sure they had like 5 or 6 in the first 20 minutes.
And set pieces. They had a lot of set pieces.
If you add it up, it was probably like 8, maybe 9.
And what came
combined.
out of those?
Absolutely
nothing.
Well, there was one corner where Gibbs White on the edge of the box had a nice shot.
That was a very nice shot.
Nice volley, and Pickford able to save it. But this was the game. I'll just tell you right now, this was the game, Sam. I didn't know Everton had a crowd. I'll be quite frank. There was no like loud people at all. I noticed once I saw a guy wearing a Von Dutch shirt because I was like, wow.
Something I wanted to talk about that I realized during this game. So during this whole COVID, no fans, the home versus away disappeared pretty much.
Yeah.
You don't have a home field advantage.
Yeah.
You don't have fans pretty much. It's kind of like same as being home or away.
Yeah.
So what I noticed, home teams started feeling like we can sit back and play on the counter and we're not going to get any stick from our fans, any jeers.
That's interesting.
Or anything.
Yeah.
And that is just something I noticed. And then they come into this game trying to do that system, and it's like, oh, this is not working.
Yeah.
The fans are like, we waited 14 months, and we get to watch Everton
see a couple counterattacks?
sit back against Wolves? It's like,
yeah, I mean, you would not want to pay to see that. You don't want to pay to see some balls up from Seamus Coleman, so Calvert-Lewin can hold it up, and then you hold the ball for 2 minutes and nothing happens.
Just disappointing.
What was I?
They did get the goal though. 48th minute.
They did. Richarlison. Yeah, I mean, it was a good cross by Gylfi. Gylfi's sneaky. He's just like a sneaky player in general. He's not one of my guys, not one of my Trossard guys, but he's like sneaky, has a good year. I don't think anything will top that one Swansea year yet. Was that like 16 or 17?
Yeah,
he was
incredible.
So good assist-wise that year. But Richarlison puts it home on the header. Good response after break. They didn't really change a whole lot with their style after break. It just kind of happened that they broke through. They didn't have many corners or set pieces in the first half, like Wolves, obviously.
I think Wolves went into the second half. They're like, all right, we tried everything and we're out of ideas. we tried giving Traore the ball the whole game and it didn't work. And then it just seemed like they didn't really have anything going on.
One note on Wolves, and this is important because this kind of relates to that, because I think it does kind of coincide with Jimenez and their like over-reliance on Traore. They've been outscored, or well, not outscored, but the other team has scored first in their games in 20 of 24 games where someone scored.
Wow.
You're not going to have a ton of success.
No.
I mean, you might if you're, West Ham. But if you're Wolves and you're struggling for goals and then, you're just getting scored on first, that really puts you behind the eight ball. Like, you can't afford to have that happen.
Yeah, looking at Wolves, eventually they bring on Willian Jose, which I wasn't a fan of. I think they should have brought on Vitinha first, and I think that would have helped him get a little more possession.
Yeah.
Instead, they're like, okay, we're going to throw on Willian Jose, and
just
maybe something will happen.
Yeah,
but
I mean, he hasn't really shown what he's good at like he was when he was in La Liga. He just hasn't been able. I think he has one goal, and he has one disallowed goal. we have to count those now, the disallowed goals. But no, he just hasn't been it for them, which is crazy because, I mean, there was a couple years ago, he was rumored to be going to bigger clubs in England, not just Wolves, and now he has to take a loan to Wolves and probably won't be bought.
Yeah, you never know. I mean, moves like this it's kind of a last-minute deal, obviously, to replace Jimenez, and with there being no fans and you're moving teams during a pandemic, like
it's tough to get so many guys in. Transfers are already hard enough in terms of getting stuff with the agent, with the player, with both teams, let alone during the pandemic. I mean,
and also the fact from his personal perspective, he's moving countries during such a crazy time.
Yeah, it's
going to be hard to get suited and situated.
Absolutely. Later on, not that eventful, honestly, after the goal, not super eventful. There was
one key moment.
Yeah, there's a handball shout on Doucouré, but it wasn't ruled a pen. It might have been too close to Troy, but I mean, it could have been given.
It looked like a pen to me. it looked like one of those, if this is like week 2,
yeah,
that's like a pen like 10 times over, the dancing, celebrating like this is a handball. We're going to call like 9 million handball penalties this season.
Yeah, it is one of those where it's like if they were stressing, if there's like a massive non-handball call like before, then they're like telling the refs, you got to be on top of this.
Yeah.
If you're not on top of this. What was it? It was like 2015. No, it was a little later than that. But when they were stressing like the tugging and stuff in the box, remember that? And then there was the one where Aguero was like pulling on Shawcross's kit, but Shawcross wasn't even like moving, and they still just gave him the penalty. He was just like pulling on his kit. It wasn't moving him or anything.
Yeah, that was a weird time.
Yeah, and then they went away from that.
So anyways, that was that game. It wasn't that amazing.
Mm-hmm. But it did. Everton with the 1-0 win does keep them alive in terms of the Europa Conference qualification.
I was going to say, I want to see Everton in the Europa Conference League. And that's one of those things where it's like they're losing to like a second division Estonian team.
Oh, man.
And you can
I don't know.
easily see this happening.
I'll be quite frank. I haven't looked up how many teams from each like major league get in it. Like, I don't know how many. I think La Liga is probably like, I think it's like the 7th team, and the Bundesliga, I believe, is the 7th team. But
Yeah, some good stuff.
Yeah, you're going to be playing.
It'd just be the most Everton thing to like get trounced from the Europa Conference League.
Yeah.
Like in the qualifying round or something.
You know what's a weird thing about Everton is when you watch them, sometimes you can clearly see Ancelotti's their coach.
Yeah.
With their passing sequences.
Yeah.
They'll just be amazing. You're like, what is that? What is that? This is Everton? But it only happens for like 30 seconds and it results in nothing. You're like, okay, that's back to normal.
Would have been interesting to see if they had James Rodriguez for a full season. I mean, that it seems like that's never going to happen.
Yeah, he really did find form when he was healthy this year. It was pretty crazy how well he was playing for them.
Yeah, you could just tell like what a difference he made being on that team.
Yeah,
and it's like, okay, you can tell he's like too good for this team.
Yeah,
but he's like not good enough for better teams.
Yeah, I mean, at a time, he was world class, and he was getting cycled between teams that are like, okay.
2010 World Cup.
2010, 2016, or 2014.
2014.
We both messed up.
What year is it?
Yeah. On to the next game, Newcastle, Sheffield. As terrible of a game as this sounds, it wasn't too bad. I would say early on, the sloppy passes from both teams was leading to counters. I'd say the first best chance was a giveaway by Newcastle. And Sheffield, McGoldrick really should have scored.
Yeah, he should have. Like, 6th minute.
Yeah.
That would have been big for
It would have been massive. I think that's just indicative of how their season goes. Like, maybe last year, that goes in. Like, if you simulate a year 100 times,
sure.
This year they're probably this bad, maybe like 20% of the time. But there's always that 1 or 2 seasons, if you were to simulate it, that they would have their year where they finish 9th or whatever they did last year, and those stuff like that would go in for them.
I also think Sheffield United is one of those teams that is really impacted by the lack of fans.
Mm-hmm.
Because the fans are like everything for them.
Yeah.
And not having them, and then you look at their recruitment, and it's like, we got Brewster. We paid
is he good?
Way too much for him.
Is he good?
He doesn't even start at the end of the season.
Yeah.
We're already relegated.
Yeah.
It's like...
What do you have to lose? Yeah. What do you have to lose playing the young guy? But, I mean, if he's that bad, clearly, they're not going to give him the chance.
What are they going to do? Like, he's probably on a pretty sizable contract
for wages and stuff. You just got to play him and hope he develops in the championship next year. I mean, what else can you do? You're kind of stuck with him.
It could be good for him. I mean, he had some success in the championship before, and maybe the pressure of the price tag got to him. I don't know.
Maybe.
It's Sheffield. Come on.
There's a lot of back and forth with poor decisions on passes and whatnot.
Who would have guessed it?
What I noticed is Newcastle, they really tried, Sam. They really tried to hold possession, and then they can't stop, and then they just hoof it upfield. They're, swinging around their back line, and then they're like, yeah, St. Maximin, just go chase this down.
That's the thing about Bruce Ball. You can't escape it.
What else was I going to say? They just hold possession, decide nothing's going, hoof it upfield. I mean, they need a more attack-minded midfielder. They need a 10. They have St. Maximin to create, and they have, Joe Willock's not the best creator on the ball.
He's not really a creator.
Scorer. And Joe Linton obviously is, I don't know what Joe Linton is. Almiron has one moment a game where he looks like he can create.
Seems like he just runs around a lot.
Yeah, that's what I noticed too most of the time.
Which is kind of a good quality to have when you're in Newcastle. You just got to have one guy who's running around.
He's a very, very poor man's N'Golo Kante, who's not even a pivot. He's just I don't know what he is.
I look at Newcastle and I think when I watch them, they play pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting players like St. Maximin.
Mm-hmm.
And they play nicely, and then you're like, This
Yeah,
is
like,
Steve
this is-
Bruce,
yeah, this
and
is-
it's like weird, and it's like, what if they had a different coach?
You want to talk about weird? Did you see when John Joe Shelby lost his tooth?
I did not.
He lost his tooth. he got like hit as someone was running by. I can't remember who it is, but they're like running by and just knocked the tooth out. You have to go back and watch.
It just completes the look, honestly, for
It
John
really
Joe
does.
Shelby.
Let's see. They kind of went. I mean, because when you look at their formation, it doesn't always list as a 3-5-2. When I was watching today, and maybe they just do it against worse teams, but they kind of went more to a 3-5-2. Richie and Murphy were really obviously getting back on defense as well, but they were really pushing up, and that was their main source of offense when they actually did get in. Sheffield's half, they were swinging a lot of crosses in, and those guys are actually really good. Well, not really good, but for Newcastle standards,
Yeah,
they're
for the
good
level.
crossers.
Yeah.
And I think that's something to build off of. Just random stuff from this game. Sheffield has the most goals outside the box this year. Conceded.
Oh, okay. I was gonna say that is
They've
a damn
conceded
lie.
the
They
most.
have they scored a goal outside the box? I don't think so. Have they scored a goal? I don't think so. What do they have? Like 14 goals?
Couple off-topic points before we get back to the game. What's Willock on Arsenal next year? Are they bringing him back?
Oh, he'll be back. He'll be back. You have to bring him back. He scored 6 and 6.
Yeah,
I
you
mean,
would think.
The thing is, though, it's a completely different system.
True.
In
it
this
might just
system,
suit him a
Joe
little
Willock
better.
has a free roll. He just kind of runs, gets the ball, gets in behind. That's not going to happen at Arsenal.
With Arteta's.
So if he goes back to Arsenal,
Arteta's like circle formation, his cycle formation that he has.
the horseshoe.
The donut.
Stay away
the real
from-
donut.
Stay away from the center of the pitch.
37th minute, Sheffield finally actually get possession. This is like the first time since like the 5th minute, and it lasts for about 2 minutes. It goes away. I just like Newcastle's style of play in terms of with their pace, getting wide. This is when they're not just playing hoofball. When they get wide and they have pace to slide it in behind, or they just have people breaking towards the net for a nice outswinger from Murphy or Richie. I just like they're actually enjoyable to watch.
I agree.
Next, just go into the goal. It's the main event. Just St. Maximin, what can you say? Just poor clearance, dangles people, edge of the box, picks out an amazing through ball. Just perfect dime through ball. And then Murphy, of course, in behind for the through ball, swings in kind of like a cutback cross for a header. It to your guy. To Joey W. And that just showcases, just go watch that goal. That just showcases why Newcastle, they show moments where they should.
That they do.
Yeah, where they just should be better. I don't know.
But
Maybe that's just
Steve
me. I'm
Bruce,
biased.
I don't know.
Even though I'm not Newcastle
Does Steve
supporter.
Bruce get too much flack? Or do you realize that Newcastle almost got
Secretly-
relegated?
Secretly, he plays the hoofball style, so then he's like, okay, now we can do it like 6 times a game where we actually play like a real team. And then it catches people off guard. He just has that.
Sneaks it in there. So that's that game.
Pretty much. I mean, there's chances here and there. I would say just random stats before we wrap it up. St. Maximin completed 15 dribbles against Sheffield United.
Dude's amazing.
That's the most dribbles by a player in a Premier League match since 2020. Adama Traore. Here's pop quiz. Who is it against?
Sheffield United.
No.
Damn.
No, it wasn't. Sorry, Matt. It was Watford. It was Watford.
Troy Deeney, he's a number 9.
Yeah, not much to say about that game. Maybe Newcastle can kind of build off of this stuff, but
Unlikely.
it's
They
not
are
much.
what they are.
Yeah, it's not much. You just kind of hope St. Maximin does his thing and go from there. Next game.
Big topic.
This one might take a while. You're really going to have to edit this one good, Sam, because we're going to be going on tangents.
Get your snacks, folks.
Yeah. Tottenham Villa. You want to start or you want me to start? Because we got a lot to talk about with this one.
Lineups. We have a rare start for Steven Bergwijn.
I noticed that too right away, and it makes you think whenever you see him, you're like, why doesn't he play more?
Why doesn't he play more? I don't know. And then you look at Aston Villa, Jack Grealish back in the lineup.
Finally.
Big get.
And you can see it.
Aston Villa has some rotation. You can tell. I mean, they aren't playing for anything.
Mm-hmm.
But it's good to see Jack Grealish back in the match.
And they got their main guys in there. Watkins and McGinn are playing Mings.
Yep.
El Ghazi.
It's kind of a mix of starters and rotational players. Some big news
Before the match.
Harry Kane, he wants out. I'm Hurricane. I want out.
Hurricane. I want Tottenham. We can't win a game. We just can't win, lads.
Come get me, Jose.
What teams are we thinking? Just City, United, Chelsea, simple as that? Because I don't see him going abroad. I just don't.
No, not at all. It's interesting because he has given Tottenham a lot of slack, and now he's 28 or 29, almost 29.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, that big move. If someone's going to pay...
It's got to be now.
If they're going to ask 150 million for a 28/29, I don't know exactly how old he is, but there's not that many teams who would pay that much for a player.
I'll tell you one right now, and it's whenever I watch them, and you can see when you go look at their stats, not even just by goals, but like with their shots, their advanced stats when it comes to shots. Chelsea would pay it. It's just a matter of if Levy would sell to Chelsea, because I mean, you can sit there, Tommy Tuchel, and talk about a hybrid forward all you want, and Kai Havertz.
Oh God, not that. Anything but Kai Havertz up front.
And,
make it stop.
And Werner, who I don't know, maybe he just kind of fell out of form because I don't know, new league / Frank Lampard had him playing a little more like a wing rather than a 9, which he was at Leipzig, and really everybody's gone and like Stuttgart and stuff. But
he does like to get into wider spaces.
True.
Which is, it's like you think maybe like a two forward system works better.
That would be interesting.
Because it's like, is he the sole guy?
Is the second forward?
He's kind of like he gets in behind and then he wants to play the ball to someone else, maybe?
The problem with their two guys, rather, none of them is just a true number 9. You have Abraham, I guess, as a 9. We'll just say he's a 9.
Yeah.
Okay. Obviously, Giroud's a 9, but I don't know what they're doing with him. They're just holding him. I mean, he really should be a backup, and I get why he wants to play. And he does a good job of relieving certain spells where they're just not scoring. And you would think, well, they're not scoring a lot of the time. Why not just play Giroud? And then when he's out of form, it's like, well, you might as well play Werner, play Havertz.
So anyways, back to this game.
Yes.
Just one more pre-match note. The fans are back in the stands. We talked about this.
Yes, we did.
There was a graphic, ticket prices for tickets for fans returning.
Yes.
Highest price for a ticket, £60. None other than Tottenham Hotspur, of course.
Beautiful.
Greedy,
Daniel Levy.
sitting there like, how much you going to wait?
Watch out. Daniel.
We're going to get him. We're going to get him. And not only this, they pay the most expensive ticket price. The fans have to sit above the sponsorship banners. They're in like the high first level, second level.
I thought you were going to say they have to pay the highest ticket and they have to watch potentially the saddest team. Arguably the saddest.
Add to add that in to the mix.
Oh my gosh.
But I just thought this is the state of Tottenham. The performance is secondary to money.
Yeah. I mean, just look at the last 5 to 6 years. You were building something with Pochettino. You had your core players. And it just goes poof out of nowhere. I mean,
yeah, it's amazing. They're a team that was in the Champions League final. They've been in contentions to win the title of the Premier League.
Yeah.
And then
it just all falls apart.
Where are we now? We have guys coming in.
Our core guys really want to leave, and it's like, well, we don't really want to sell them.
We're in this like Ryan Mason.
Yeah, you don't have a
manager.
real manager.
Harry Kane wants out. Son is going to want out, most likely. But anyways, into the game, Tottenham actually starts out pretty good. Early goal.
I would say it was more Villa being lazy. I felt like they were just kind of slacking in their play. And Bergwijn, good work rate, really worked to get it. Takes on two guys and then just blasts it past the goal. It's a great shot, great finish.
And then just after that, Tottenham doing Tottenham things. Hugo Lloris takes out Ollie Watkins. Like, clearly.
Yeah,
But it's ruled by VAR as not a penalty. I just wanted to get your thoughts on that one.
How about look at my notes right here? No call on Watkins / Lloris. Question mark.
Yeah, pretty much.
I mean, it should have been.
Yeah, I thought it was clear.
Yeah, he's clear contact, and the fact that they just decided not to.
The only argument that there was
the ball was going out.
That the ball was...
Or not fully in possession.
Yeah.
But he hit it around. He got the touch on the ball.
I don't know. Should have been a penalty. We're in agreement on that one.
Yeah.
And then, Reguilon, he comes in off the first tee. He pulls driver, and what is
Shanks
that?
It.
That is a shank slice onto the next fairway and into the back of the net.
It was virtually knee up there.
It's 1-1.
Villa showed good patience before that in terms of their possession through Grealish and finding pockets of space before, they kind of keep wide and then they cut middle when they got the right opportunity. And I would say it's just a one-off thing, but it's clearly one of the issues with Tottenham. It's one of those things, you look at the advanced stats, Højbjerg isn't that bad when you look at that. When you watch games, he just doesn't look good. I don't know what to tell you. Like, he's getting beat on passes he shouldn't, or like half commit, and he's just caught out, and it's just bad.
We're at a Tottenham where the starting midfield pairing is Højbjerg and Harry Winks. You look at that and you go, is that a team who was in the Champions League final, who has been pushing for Premier League titles?
That cuts back a little bit to, and this is one of the things that doesn't fully fall on Tottenham. Winks showed moments where he's like, okay. But it kind of does fall on Tottenham because he was all right. He's obviously not like a Champions League final player, but he was a nice rotation piece for him. He kind of got hurt, fell off, and it's like, well, if he did fall off and he's not matching your quality, why is he on your team?
Yeah.
You should at least have a replacement. And same thing for Dele Alli, but I think Dele Alli's magnified because he was like, they were going to have a big three of Kane, Alli, Son.
Yeah.
And Dele Alli's just
dropped off a cliff, and somehow he's like at the bottom of the cliff, and like he doesn't play under Mourinho because he's not really very good anymore, and he just looks like slow
we're gonna
lazy.
We're gonna get to it.
But I did want to say about Villa.
Yeah.
This goes without saying.
Mm-hmm.
Completely different team with Jack Grealish.
Oh, absolutely.
He's just the focal point of their offense. They look so much better in possession, and just all around a much better team.
While he may be worth 100 mil or 120 mil, it's not worth for Villa to sell. There's no way. They would instantly maybe not instantly get relegated, but their odds of getting relegated right now, I would put them at like 5%. There's maybe just a catastrophic year. And even this year, they didn't have them for long periods, and they still stayed up comfortably. So, if you took him off the team, they'd definitely be in the relegation battle. They'd be in like the Brighton tier of teams.
Yep.
Yeah, that cross, it really, when you look back at it, it wasn't the first one, but it kind of did come out of nowhere. It is just it described Tottenham in the moment. That
Yeah, it was
that
so
total
bad.
shank describes their last couple years.
And Tottenham, wow, how terrible did they look? They looked like they were playing on the field that was slanted, like they were going uphill.
Yeah.
They couldn't get it past the halfway line.
They were being outworked. You can't put into words how much they were being outworked by Villa. It's like, what team is supposed to be playing for Europe? Villa's not going anywhere.
No.
They're not going anywhere. And Tottenham's out here just playing like it's a Sunday league match. like they have nothing. They couldn't care anymore in the world. They're like, oh, perfect. This is great. We're down 1-0 and we're just getting shit on. No, it's great.
Yeah, there was a time where I'm watching Tottenham. They can't get it out of their own half.
Mm-hmm.
Harry Kane and Son are coming all the way back to try and get on the ball because the midfield is so bad at progressing the ball.
Look at this, Sam. These are my notes. Tot has possession around 30 min finally, and Kane and Son just touching the ball so far back. It's incredible. They're in their own half when it's clear that they're trying to go forward. Like, it's not like the defenders are in their own box. They're kind of border between Tottenham's final third and the mid third.
Mm-hmm.
And here's Harry Kane almost near midfield, like coming to get the ball.
You'd think they're
Like
fullbacks at that point.
You'd almost think that Kane's an 8 or
Yeah.
something. Like, it's like, what are they doing?
Like
But they had to. They didn't have a choice. They don't have midfield.
He's realizing the midfield's so bad, so he's like, look at me. I am the midfielder now.
Yeah,
I'm going to be the ball carrier and get this.
It was just.
And then the second time,
Oh my gosh.
Reguilon strikes again. Ollie Watkins scores off a mistake.
I mean,
Just terrible.
Tottenham's best chances before they weren't even that great. And then it comes to Villa. And Reguilon's at the back. Just slow decision making. Pass gets blocked. Tottenham gets it back. They pass to Reguilon again. He could, I suppose, drop it back to Dyer. And then he just, because he was so far back, he was like at the end line. They could have just cleared it upfield or out of bounds. Instead, he goes for the pass again. And he gets blocked again. This time, the deflection goes kind of a little towards net, edge of the box area. Ollie Watkins gets it. Dyer's out of position. He's on the end line.
Right.
And Alderweireld is on the other side of the box, pretty much. And this is Ollie Watkins is walking towards the net and then just slots it coolly past Lloris.
Well taken by Ollie Watkins.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, one of us probably could have done it. But he literally just walked it straight at the net and put it around him. But
goes into halftime, 2-1, Villa up. Spurs greeted by boos all the way from the second deck.
The upper deck, the upper tank, the nosebleeds.
They are not happy. I would be pissed.
£60 for what? And for what? Just some like fat British guy yelling that.
One of the best parts of the game was in the second half when you could hear a fan yell, "Pretend like you're winning." Even the commentators are starting to laugh at this. I mean, it's just comical how bad Tottenham have become.
Yeah, it's.
I mean, not to mention they fired a proven winner of a manager.
And Pochettino, after one kind of bad run, wasn't even that long, really.
And then Mourinho comes in. They get to the FA Cup final.
Fire him a week before.
Or not the FA Cup.
The Carabao Cup. Carabao Cup finalists, by the way. They
put that on a DVD.
Yeah. They no, that just shows like their decision making, their thought process. It doesn't make sense. Mourinho is, even though he's not the best manager right now and he's not doing as maximizing the team's efficiency, clearly, by their place in the table and in Europe, you can't fire a manager a week before a cup final, especially when Mourinho is one of the best of all time in finals.
I sure as hell would rather have him than Ryan Mason.
Is second game, third game?
Yeah.
What is going through your mind? Like, that just doesn't make sense.
But anyways, Villa.
Villa
could have scored,
3 or 4.
3 or 4.
Yeah, they really could have.
I mean, it was just easy for them, and
It was just weird that their first one was on one that they probably shouldn't have.
Yeah, right.
Because it was out of nowhere.
Yeah.
But second half, this is where I make my bread about this right here.
Yeah.
About Tottenham. Dele Alli, it's inexcusable. Like, we say inexcusable for Tottenham's board, but this is beyond not caring. This is like he's already on the flight heading out. He's like, bye guys.
He's been gone for a week.
I'm on holiday. I'm on vacation now. It's over. He's just standing in between space between the midfielders and defenders, not really moving. And there's clearly like no way to get him the ball, but he's just standing there. It's really incredible. And then he'll get the ball and he just has a dog water pass.
Yeah, it's amazing.
It's so bad. It's like he should be on a team that's being relegated. Like, that's the form he's in.
And Gareth Bale comes on. He looks like he is one of the only players that actually cares about what is happening.
Which is absolutely hilarious, seeing as how he's known for caring about golf more than his team when he was in Spain.
I mean, I think Gareth Bale should be starting.
Yeah, I don't know why some of these guys, they're just not rotating these people. And I guess this time they probably gave Bale rest so Bergwijn could play, and Bergwijn did score. But
like, if Kane wants to leave,
I mean, that's a black eye on the club.
You got to bring in Bale on a permanent, don't you?
Oh, gosh.
I feel like you have to. I mean,
if they
probably don't want to, but
yeah.
You got to have someone who actually
just
cares.
As like a image. We were talking about image with Leicester earlier. That's such a black eye in your club. Think about Harry Kane and all the stuff he's been through with Tottenham. And then he's like, all right, I can't take him. I have to leave.
He gave him a very long rope to play with. And it's like,
it's been about
this is
6
so
years?
bad that even Harry Kane wants to leave.
Yeah.
That's how you know it's awful.
Mm-hmm. And
he sacrificed potentially going to a
bigger
Man
club,
City in the peak of his career. I mean, obviously he's
still in
the
prime.
peak, but having more years, he could have won more trophies.
One thing I noticed getting back to the game about the second half, not just that Villa kept, playing as the better team, but they kept playing their style. They didn't like sit back as some teams might do against bigger teams and stuff and let them challenge. They kept attacking. They kept pushing forward. And, I mean, eventually,
a player I really enjoy watching on Villa is Traore. I feel like every time he touches the ball, he's just
something
doing
exciting.
something
Yeah,
interesting.
we don't really know. He'll like dangle someone and then immediately lose it.
Yeah.
He kind of reminds me of Wilf in a way.
Yeah.
I think Dele Alli finally shown like a lifeline for like 1 second with a couple nice through balls and a shot that would have scored if it wasn't blocked. This was around like the 50th minute or so. But there was just really nothing positive from Tottenham.
I think Dele Alli tried to go with that like new haircut, get some good vibes going.
Yeah, and it's
not there.
Bad vibes.
Bad vibes.
Bad vibes.
Tottenham is Bad Vibes FC.
They very well
fully
are.
Declared.
With how good their offense is at times and how sad their defense is virtually all the time, it's bad vibes.
And just, we can touch on this more on the end of the season recap, but the recruitment, Matt Doherty comes on and it's like,
what does he do?
Why did you buy Doherty? It's like, obviously
he
doesn't fit your system.
Yeah.
He plays in a very different system as a wingback for Wolves. You play a 4 at the back defense.
Yeah, whereas he's a little more attack-minded than a regular fullback.
Is it that hard to look at this and be like, okay, he's a good player, but the system we're playing,
even
it
like buying rotational pieces and stuff like that, not even to mention Ndombele, what a flop.
Absolutely.
They clearly just, it hits a certain point, and I think it does do that, to be fair to Tottenham. It does that for most teams, unless you're one of the best teams, where have everything going for you, and then eventually you kind of hit a rough patch and things kind of don't go your way.
Yeah, unless you can really pump in a lot of money, you're going to have years where you struggle.
And even that, you'll still see teams, not necessarily in the Premier League, you don't see it that much, but maybe Southampton kind of in a way, where they were like pretty good pushing European for a while, and then they sold all their guys, and they still were good for a little bit, and then they sold one or two more guys, and then it just...
Real nightmare. Now they're kind of on the upswing.
Yeah, I don't know what
Kinda
to feel
went
about
back
them.
down, though.
I don't know what to feel about them. They had it going earlier this year. Anything else you want to touch on in this game? It really
It was just good on Villa.
Yeah. It was more good on Villa and Tottenham.
You're a joke. Next game, Palace v Arsenal. Arsenal with the 3-1 victory. Early goal from Pepe, in the first half.
Yeah.
35th minute. Looked pretty good.
Before that, and we'll just talk about it. Smith Rowe, when he gets out wide, it felt like that was when they were most dangerous, at least when I was watching it. The crosses weren't necessarily the best. Palace, they don't have the best defense in terms of just in general. But Cahill and Tompkins, they're
solid.
They're serviceable.
Yeah.
They're serviceable. So it was kind of hard. And Arsenal they have guys almost like we were talking with Leeds before, where it's like they can head, but it's not
Aubameyang's not going to be scoring too many headers.
Yeah, and same with, we'll see
Pepe's
later.
not going to really come in and score headers or anything. But,
Yeah,
but like you were saying, Smith Rowe, for me, he's been just an incredible addition to this team. He started playing in December or January, and the team has really changed.
Mm-hmm.
It was really a dire scene because Arsenal could not score for the life, and the game plan was like, okay, we're gonna swing in like 90 million crosses and just hope like someone goes full on Reguilon and slices one in the back of the net.
Yeah. What I noticed too is that they were slightly a little more central than past games. It wasn't like over the top. It was more a little subtle in terms of, but you'd be like, oh, all right, there we go. A little more going north and south rather than east-west.
Yeah.
And it didn't do a ton in the first half, but at least, it's progress. You have to do it at some point. So
I just want to bring up the refereeing performance from Anthony Taylor. First half, Jeffrey Schlupp goes into the ankle of Callum Chambers. Could have easily broken his ankle.
I noticed this.
And we're going to be like, okay, going to VAR, and that's a yellow card.
Yeah.
That's a yellow card. Doesn't matter if he has to, get stretchered off. That's a yellow card. And then in the second half, another one. Benteke gets in a little scuffle with El Neni and then hits him in the head with his elbow. And it's not called.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas you go back to Arsenal versus Leeds, Pepe gets like a slight little nudge with his head on Alioski.
Yes.
Red card.
Yeah.
So I'm saying
it's inconsistent.
These two scenarios, if they're David Luiz, Granit Xhaka, both are reds.
Can you tell who's an Arsenal fan? No, they were terrible calls. I watch and I see them and I think it's bad, but I think
I'm biased. But it's just ridiculous. There's a lot of examples this season of where refereeing is very inconsistent.
Oh yeah,
and Arsenal have been on the end of some bad goals.
Talk about fans. Wait till fans get back. Refs are not gonna like it very much. I think refs probably enjoyed the no fans the most.
Absolutely.
Yeah, because they're gonna be hearing it.
And then
I just want to talk real quick about interesting points about the game about the formations. Palace was kind of like a 4-3-3 when going forward, which wasn't a ton of the time. It did feel like they dropped back more to like kind of like a 4-5-1 almost, or even like a 5 at the back, but not really because Townsend and Zaha. What are they going to be as wing backs? But they were dropping back, not making sure Arsenal couldn't really get out wide as much. And then Arsenal, we talked about their formation earlier. It's like they did play the 4-2-3-1 away from the Christmas tree formation from earlier. But they don't really hold that. And it's really interesting to watch if you do break it down to see where people are at. It's just like, what is Xhaka doing way over there? What is this?
It's because of this Man City influence on Arteta, where he likes to have the fullbacks like come in and like then they're like midfielders.
Yeah.
And
now, the pivot generally drops all the way back
and
to
they
cover.
drop back. So Granit Xhaka's like,
it's crazy.
It's weird, and it's like, okay, we're Arsenal here.
Yeah,
we don't spend £1 billion on our players.
Yeah, we just need basic stuff.
We need like the Pep Guardiola light.
Like sometimes I'm telling Arsenal what they should do because I'm a genius.
Absolutely,
they should do this kind of stuff against smaller teams where you know that you could genuinely like confident. You feel confident that you can beat them. Against bigger teams and even like just mid-table teams, you should probably maybe keep it chalk and just like, okay, we're not going to be doing that quite yet. We're just going to go with our general stuff that we're doing, even when Arteta was like kind of newer to the team.
Well, what worked for them against the big teams is just parking the biggest bus ever. And then
that's true.
Then relying on other teams to make mistakes, and somehow you get a 1-0 victory.
Yeah,
and it's
out of nowhere.
This is kind of embarrassing that we played this way, but
Big Sam style, results are result.
3 points, baby.
And about just one last thing. Palace, should they play on the counter more? Whenever I watch them, I feel like, or even just like faster build-up. That feels when they're most dangerous.
Yeah, it's like they sit back quite a bit.
But they don't really put the pedal on the gas.
But then they don't play on the counter, so it's like, what are you doing?
They kind of just hold possession for a little bit, and it's like, well, this isn't going to go anywhere. You guys are pacey, and you don't really have anyone to get in and behind to them.
But then, of course, Benteke, after he should have been sent off, scores, and it's 1-1. You're thinking, this is another one of those Arsenal games. They can't win, but they should have. They got the possession. And then finally, in the 91st minute, Martinelli comes on as a sub, which he's been really nice coming off the bench. Starting, he seems to not really have as good of performances. He does have some, but he also has performances where not so good. But he's young.
I'll say this. I love me some Odegaard. He's one of my guys.
See, you love Odegaard. I enjoy him as well.
Yeah.
But the problem is when we try and play Odegaard and Emile Smith-Rowe,
it doesn't work. They're like the same guy. It doesn't work because they're the same guy. That's the thing. And it does suck that Arsenal has...
It does suck.
2 of their 5 best players in the same position, because then it's like, well, what is this?
I think the thing with Arteta is he sometimes forgets the balance. And it's like, okay, we're going to put on like 10 attackers and then we're going to score.
Yeah.
But then it's like,
that's not
you're not scoring because there's no space.
Yeah, there has to be balance.
Exactly.
The balance creates more of the quality chances than if everyone's the same. It's just oversaturized. It doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
I would say last 2 points for me. Zaha diving in the second half. It's like either hold up play, which I know you're not the best at, but like dribble to the corner and work it so you get some reinforcements, or just rip a shot. Yeah. You just falling down in the box when there's clearly any sign that there's going to be a penalty is not.
And the refs
anyone.
know that. Yeah. He is getting no calls.
Yeah. None. It's ridiculous.
Because they know that's exactly what he's going to do. But Pepe scores in the 95th minute to cap off the win.
Yeah, this is why I wanted to touch on the Pepe magic right here. It was actually really good placement by him on the field to know where to be. And then when he got it, he was in the perfect spot to make a run on his own and then, could finish.
Yeah,
it's more impressive just the knowing where to be and then what he's able to do with it.
We can touch on this more in the season recap, but it's moments like these where, you think Pepe could be a great
You
player.
could build off it. Yeah, absolutely.
But then other games, it's like, But anyways,
It was a good performance. I'd say something to build on for Arsenal. Rough one for Woy to go out on it.
Yeah.
At least at Palace. Rough
Right.
one. It's going to be a rough one this next week.
And then another thing, Eze out for a long amount of time into next season even.
Oh, what's his name on Palace? Are you talking about, or who are you going to mention?
Eze.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say.
Yeah. So that's a big miss. I mean, they're
Yeah.
already looking like they might be going down next season, but
Potentially. Depends who you bring in. Depends on. It's one of those things where you could easily see them going down. But if they bring in a good manager, if they do get, because they're rumored with Dyche, and I'm all right with Sean Dyche. I know you're not the hugest Sean Dyche guy.
I like Sean Dyche, but
I feel like it'd be better.
is there a world where
He's not at Burnley.
he's not at Burnley? It just is weird.
Well, right now it's Dyche or Lampard are the big names. I don't think they're going to go with either.
Well, I saw Lampard pulled his name out of contention. It's just too much of a rebuild. And
Yeah,
I think
it's
they're not
tough.
going to have much money to put into the club.
Yeah, because they don't spend much to begin
No.
with anyway. So that's why you could easily see them going down, like your point.
They have to replace like half their team.
Mhm.
So anyways, 3 points for Arsenal. Maybe can sneak into a 7th place. But
Maybe.
probably
a lot
not.
on the line. We'll lay out the scenarios later on. But moving on, we got Liverpool, Burnley. Oddly enough, because when I watch the games, I watch them in order of what I think is the most interesting. I watched this one first. I thought this would be the most interesting game. First off, just some notes from the game. Burnley lost their last home match of the year every year they've been up.
Quite the stat.
Yeah, it's so it's going to be Burnley's going to be getting it. But you could notice their fans. I think that's because they have such a small stadium to begin with, and
Yeah, they only had 3,500.
you could still feel it. You feel that more than the Everton fans.
True.
Early on, Liverpool just too quick for Burnley. Yet they only really got in behind once for Mane, and he just scuffed it.
Yeah.
We'll come back to this talking point I want to mention about them, but and about Burnley as
I
well.
thought Burnley, they were maybe licking their chops at the center back pairing for Liverpool, thinking maybe they could take advantage of that.
They were going, I don't know if they're just clearances or long balls that weren't really to anyone in particular, but that's kind of how it started off. There was no rhythm or order to Burnley going forward. A lot of times with their attack, it was just kind of either slight pressing maybe on Liverpool, but a lot of it was just Liverpool giving the ball away. A lot of times it was one of the two center backs, mainly Nat Phillips. I know a lot of people thought he had a great game, which he did. I mean, he scored, and he kind of came around defensively in the second half, but the first half, I don't think people talked about enough about how that was a rough go for him. What do you think?
Yeah, I guess I'm in the group that thought he had a good game, but it's probably skewed by the second half.
Yeah, it was a top heavy performance because the second half, I mean, he scores,
Yeah.
and then
Had some big
he
moments.
shuts down people defensively. But early on, maybe it's just nerves or something. I don't know why he'd have nerves against Burnley, but
I don't know.
maybe just
Chris
getting
Wood
in his,
giving you the eyes.
A couple interesting points on Liverpool's style. Mane more in the middle, kind of almost like a false nine for them. Not
Yeah.
really on the wing. Normally gets out wide. It's kind of weird how far back Firmino kind of was. They got forward plenty enough, so he was there. But whenever Burnley had the ball and stuff, or the build-up play, I thought they're doing amazing job playing long balls out wide. I thought Andy Robertson was maybe the best player of not only this game but of the week. I thought the way he contributed to winning
Yeah, he
was
looked
pretty incredible.
good out there.
And they go into the goal. They just get through behind the defender.
I feel like I've seen this game before.
Yeah,
I feel like every time Liverpool plays Burnley, like the same thing kind of happens. It's like, Burnley's kind of in the game. And then Liverpool does their thing, and
It's
then they
just
score.
and then you look up and it's over.
Yeah.
Second goal with Mane out wide. Often just second half, walks it in, soft cross, middle of the box for Phillips.
He's very tall.
Yeah, he gets on it. It's nothing too crazy about it. Burnley, it really just felt like in the mid they weren't winning the ball. They were winning it early on, and then as the game progressed, they really just stopped getting the second ball a lot of times.
They did have a big chance in the 66th minute off of a corner, I believe it was. Nat Phillips clearing Ben Mee's header off of the line. Might have made it interesting if Burnley pulls one back. It's 2-1. Maybe Burnley could pull back another one.
Yeah, and it's one of those things that kind of came out of nowhere too, and it's just proof that there's no order to Burnley's attack. It just kind of comes out of nowhere. And
Burnley is chaos.
Yeah,
They do end up with kind of a lot of different combinations. Like this game, they had Chris Wood and Brownhill up top.
Yeah, Brownhill kind of is like a cam.
And then Vidra came on later, and he was kind of up top.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's Ashley Barnes, who...
Is he out right now?
I think he's hurt, but he also got pulled over for
Oh, he has some off the field stuff.
For driving while intoxicated.
Yeah.
If you can believe that.
Yeah,
Ashley Barnes, very classy man.
Yeah, Liverpool kind of just shuts up shop from the 75th minute on. And then we got a retro goal. Oxlade-Chamberlain. It kind of looked like Arsenal Oxlade-Chamberlain, and probably why they splashed money on him a few years back.
I wonder how Ox feels now. Does he regret the move? The injuries are what they are. He probably would have got injured either way. But.
Yeah, the team's success and being allowed how he wanted to play, because he left Arsenal because he wasn't going to play as much centrally, which he wanted to do, correct? He wanted, Arsenal was going to be like, you're more of a winger, we're going to have you out wide. And he's like, no, I kind of want to be more central. And Liverpool allowed him to do that.
But then it's also it doesn't even feel like he's part of the team. It's he's he plays so
maybe if
rarely.
he has moments. If he starts to have moments, you could maybe see it, because even Shaqiri right now, you'd be like, he's not part of the team.
Ooh.
But he had a little stretch where
That's
remember when
true.
Shaqiri was pretty good for him.
I don't feel like Ox has really had that stretch.
No, he hasn't. That's what I'm saying. He could, but I don't know, because there's been rumors that he could leave, but it's
should go back to Southampton.
that'd be pretty good.
Him and
I don't know if
Theo.
they could. I don't know if they want to pay.
He must
I don't
be.
know what.
I don't know
I
what
can't
his
wait.
contract situation is, but it's probably coming down towards
Towards the end.
if he wanted to take a pay cut.
Moving on, we got West Brom and West Ham.
The West Derby.
More implications as far as European football. Surely not for West Brom. 3-1 it finishes. We'll start off West Brom, right away. Game starts with West Brom trying to get in their attacking kind of rhythm, and then it results in a block somehow, it pretty much results in an awful back pass, intercepted by Antonio, taken out for a penalty.
Yeah.
And then West Ham refuses to score. They say, we're not scoring too soon. Declan Rice rings it off the post.
The biggest respect move that he's going to hit this pen right off the post, because I respect you.
It was a great sound.
Yeah, very nice. Nice little reverb.
After that, I kind of felt like this game, even though it had that amazing start right away for West Ham, after that, it was kind of slow. Kind of slow. West Ham generally gets off to kind of fast, quick leads and establishes their game style. But they didn't do that this game.
No, they didn't look as...
They just weren't
lively,
on. I don't know if they
I don't know.
couldn't. Obviously they have something to play for, but it is hard to get up when you see West Brom on the schedule or any team that's, I mean, in this case they are relegated, but any team that's near the bottom, you just kind of check it off. West Brom kind of hanging around, and then 27th minute, Sam, what happens?
Goal from Pereira. I mean, he's been like the only guy.
Yeah, he was their only guy really last year in the championship too. I mean, he just is their playmaker. The slightest
I mean, it was an amazing goal.
Yeah.
The Olympico, I don't know if you, I guess it was credited to him.
Mm-hmm. Because
there was
on
a slight touch.
It was, yeah.
Unlucky for
Soucek.
my boy, Darren Randolph, who's just left looking helpless.
Yeah, there's nothing he could do.
Unlucky.
Right before half, West Ham started to establish possession, kind of playing a little more West Ham that we're used to this year. Finally gets a goal. But was it a goal? Are we sure? Are we sure? West Ham, are we sure?
I don't know.
Soucek for a tap-in played directly across from Benrahma, who I can't decide if he's good or not.
I think he's growing into it. I think
it is an adjustment for guys from the
the
Championship
adjustment.
to the Premier League, and we saw this with West Ham's Antonio even, and now he's really clicking. I think it will take him a little bit of time, but yeah, this goal, VAR checked it, but I must have to get new glasses. I don't know what to tell you.
I think Benrahma is going to be more important than Jesse Lingard.
Yeah, I could see that because West Ham was already solid before Lingard. Lingard kind of just brought good form and really pushed it over the top.
Brought the vibes.
Yeah, he did.
Vibes FC.
He did bring the vibes.
Tottenham is bad vibes FC.
Yeah,
West Ham, good vibes FC.
All the vibes are either in London or if you're in a certain part of London, you don't have any vibes.
But I just wonder about Lingard. Is like,
I don't know what his future is. He's fallen off a little bit.
He's fallen off.
But I mean,
is he really worth it for?
It depends.
I guess it depends on the price, and then it's like
I'm gonna suspect 30 mil because Man U. You think more?
No, I think.
You think less?
I don't think anyone would want to pay 30 mil. Well,
I think that's what Man U is gonna come out with. Yeah.
Will people pay 30 mil for Lingard?
Yes.
Probably. Should they? No.
That's fair.
Just because he has like 2 months of good games.
Yeah.
He's not going to play at United.
No, he's not. And that's why with teams, they'll be saying that to Man U. They'll be like, what are you going to do with him?
Yeah, right.
Well, we're going to use him. Oh, yeah, really? You were using him before.
Yeah, exactly.
So
I'd say like 20 mil.
I'd say 25. Let's settle on 25.
25, all right. The prices are crazy. I mean, Ryan Brewster,
20 mil.
Yeah. So Jesse Lingard, 60 mil.
Yeah. Not a whole lot really going on in the second half until late.
Yeah.
80th minute goal, Ogbonna off the corner from Cresswell, who, if I'm not mistaken, from a defender, has the most assists now ahead of Trent Alexander-Arnold, ahead of Mr. Robertson.
Dude's a fantasy Premier League legend. I'll say that.
He's tearing it up out there. 88th minute counterattack. Antonio seals it. That one kind of came out of nowhere, but I mean, counterattack. What else are you gonna expect? Anything else you wanna mention about this game, Sam?
No, it's just West Ham did what they needed to. It wasn't the best game by any means, but
West Brom kind of made him work.
They made him work. One thing I wanted to bring up was, I think West Brom with Big Sam for the full season. That's an interesting prospect.
Yeah.
But
they did play better.
They definitely played better. Unfortunately, it was announced
too late.
that he's not coming back in the championship, which isn't that surprising.
Yeah, he doesn't want to take
People kind of were like, oh, man, it'd be so awesome. But
it's like,
nah, he could get a job. He
might be taking over when Watford fire their manager, I guess.
Yeah.
Might be taking over Watford.
For the fifth time.
It could be. There's a lot of options. Maybe if Palace hire another Frank de Boer and they got to fire him right away, they'll
yeah,
they'll have to bring in Big Sam even again. Oh,
come save us again, and he'd be like, "Wow, this team is so bad, I couldn't even do that." So that wraps up the Matchweek 37 fixtures.
So now on to match week 38. We've worked so hard to get to this point. The final week.
Dun, dun, dun.
The final week. It all wraps up Sunday, 10 a.m. Central Time. Central Time over here. We don't care about your Mountain Time or your Eastern Time or your Western Time.
Or your Hawaiian time.
The HT.
HT,
Not
baby.
to be confused with halftime. So they're all at the same time. We're just going to quick run through, give a preview of each one, kind of what we're looking for out of each matchup. We're going to start Arsenal-Brighton. Not a ton to play for, but still always interesting stuff to watch. See who actually gets played. See if they kind of maybe go with a couple of younger guys in there. Maybe see if they want to keep playing their best players and build on something for next year. Like Brighton might want to do that. They might say, well, this is our best 11, and if we can carry this momentum into next year, that'd be something.
I would think Trossard would be starting for Brighton in this one.
I would hope so.
He'd have to be. I think Brighton is kind of one of those teams that can give Arsenal some troubles.
They have in the past.
I don't know. What is Arsenal? There's something.
Yeah.
What are they playing for?
It's week to week.
Maybe
Arsenal is, I mean, he's leaving now, but Arsenal's perfectly summed up by Danny Ceballos. When he's out there, you don't really know what you're seeing. It's not bad when you look at his stats and then the eye test. It's not terrible, but you're like, what exactly is he doing? I don't know. I don't know what he's doing.
And then sometimes he goes out there against Villarreal, and it is just a nightmare.
Yeah.
And you're like,
there's times where it's good,
why am I
bad,
doing
and
this?
everything in between. It'll definitely be interesting. One thing that I kind of want to touch on with this is the Brighton midfield prospect. Is it Busama? Or who's
Bissouma, yeah.
Bissouma.
Yes.
Obama Basama.
Absolutely.
He's been rumored.
That's correct.
He's been rumored with Arsenal, correct?
Arsenal's my favorite Premier League team. My name is Barack Obama.
He could be going away and winning 3-1 victories against Crystal Palace.
It's a great win for our team.
He's been rumored with Arsenal. Just thoughts on that. I think he's a good player. When I watch him, and that's not even just going off general, like he has the most tackles by midfield and stuff. Just other stuff he does. He's just a good energy player to have out there. I just don't know if that's what Arsenal needs in terms of what you spend money on.
Yeah, I agree. I think he's a good player. I think he's very similar to Thomas Partey.
That's what
And you're more looking for a partner for Thomas Partey, and I don't think he's the one.
You need a yin and yang.
And I think he'll be pretty expensive, probably.
Yeah, younger guy. I don't think they'll sell him. If they end up getting relegated next year, there's a chance, that they sell him. But
yeah,
you saw Watford last year. They held on to Sarr. You saw even when Villa's in the championship, teams trying to get Grealish and stuff. I feel like these teams that are maybe not the best in the Premier League and there's just didn't go their way. They have confidence they can bounce up. They'll hold on to those guys now.
Yeah.
And they're like, there's no point because there's a chance we can get back in the Premier League and get Premier League revenue money.
Yeah, it's no longer they're relegated, so fire sale, unless they're a really poorly run team and they didn't think they're getting relegated.
Yeah, exactly.
But anyways, moving on to the next one, Aston Villa, Chelsea. I think for this one, it'll be interesting to see how Aston Villa comes out if they're playing well again. Mm-hmm. Be interesting to see how much Jack Grealish plays.
Yeah, coming off an injury, short week.
Just wrap him up.
You might want to put either, if he's going to play, put bubble wrap on him, or you just say, Jack, why don't you take an early vacation, Dele Alli style? You just go on holiday.
I don't want to see Tony Rudiger anywhere near him.
And then with Chelsea, it's all to play for. The pressure's on them. I mean, we've seen teams, obviously, it isn't not just necessarily the Premier League, but any sport. If the pressure's on, there's a chance that the moment might just be too big. I don't think with the veterans Chelsea has, that would be too big. They just barely lost a cup final. They're going to be in the Champions League final. I think more than likely they'll take care of business and at least secure a top 4 spot. As far as how they're going to do it, it'll be interesting to see if they make any changes. I know that there's times where Tuchel will play Pulisic. Sometimes he won't. They'll rotate some guys in and out. But
it'll also be interesting to see. Conte came off against Leicester.
I don't think he's playing.
He's not playing this game for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a big question mark. Is he available for the Champions League
final, let alone this game? Exactly. So you're going to be relying on Jorginho and Kovacic, which you'd like to think that gets you through Villa, but there's a chance. You never know. Next match, Newcastle Fulham. Not a whole lot going on in this one, guys. There's not a whole lot.
Just
Newcastle,
2 teams that play some interesting football.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. It won't be a boring if it is a 0-0 or something. It won't be boring. No. I'll tell you that much. We'll go to Leeds West Brom next. Leeds coming on strong at the end. West Brom
fading off just into the sunset.
Do it for the skipper, Big Sam. But I would be interested just to see what Leeds kind of do. And they didn't play Melier this last game. I don't know if they're gonna not play him again. I don't know why. Goalkeeper of all positions, you wouldn't think is the one that you're resting at the end of the year when there's not much to play for.
I think it's more just like, this means nothing, so we'll throw him a bone. And
Mr. Casilla, Mr. Kiko. We'll go to this one is probably going to be the most linchpin. Yeah. This will determine a lot of stuff here. Leicester Spurs. What are we thinking, Sam?
This looks like a game that Leicester will win easily, but then sometimes Leicester just kind of makes things more difficult than they need to be.
Yeah, I mean, you hate to say it, but they do kind of choke at times.
Then Gareth Bale comes on and scores a hat trick. And
yeah, what are you going to do? This is one of those games. I was talking to our good friend Matt, who also watches the Premier League, and we'll be on this podcast eventually. This felt like if Tottenham had nothing to play for, they'd win it just for absolutely no reason.
Absolutely.
And then if they had like everything to play for, which they don't have everything to play for, but they have something to play for, that they're just going to lose because it's Tottenham and that's just their mentality. Yeah. But it'll be interesting. It could be Harry Kane's last game, potentially small chance in the Premier League. Big chance it's his last game at Tottenham in general.
Right.
As far as how they're going to play, do you think Leicester says, okay, we didn't go 2 against Chelsea up top as far as strikers. Tottenham has a vulnerable defense, significantly more vulnerable than Chelsea. Are they going back to the 2 strikers?
I would think so. I mean, even when they play the 2 striker system, Iheanacho comes...
He comes back.
He comes back a lot. I mean, he can come back even way back. And he's just... I think he's a really great player, especially for Leicester, because he makes stuff happen.
We'll get to this on the recap show at the end of the year, but he's like Mr. Zombie Award out here. The revival out of nowhere, back from the dead to...
The WWE Iheanacho.
The Undertaker. Back, he sits up. And then another important one. This really just important for Liverpool, and then I guess for Palace it's Roy Hodgson's last game, so that'll be meaningful. But Liverpool, big side note for this one other than play styles and stuff, Golden Boot, didn't really touch on it with Kane, but Salah and Kane going at it.
Didn't even realize that Kane was even that close. He plays for such a terrible team. I know
they do,
Salah was
but I was saying that earlier. Tottenham, as bad as they are, their attack is still an elite attack. I think the problem is that a lot of times they'll just blow teams out like 4-0, but it's like Crystal Palace. It's like
they did have that great run in the beginning of the season.
They did, but right now they're tied at 22.
That was a long, long time ago.
They're tied at 22. Who would you bet if you had to bet who is going to do it? It's just Mo Salah. You think they'll leave him in?
Mo Salah.
Just because Palace is lower quality than Leicester, or?
Yeah, for sure. I think Liverpool will win this one pretty easily.
I just wonder, because there's a world where, say it's Mane who scores, or like Firmino, or someone other than Salah, and they're up 2 or 3-0, and then they're just kind of sitting back.
That's true.
So it's all chance if Salah scores.
I just-
Whereas Tottenham, you would think, are going to have to be going for it at almost all times. Like, what are the odds Tottenham get up like 3-0 and it's like it's just Son or it's just, someone else? But that's very low.
I don't know if Tottenham have a go for it mode anymore. I think that button's been broken for a while.
I think
now.
when you put Ryan Mason in charge, things go bad.
Different buttons.
I think everyone's off the ship. Man City, Everton. Man City already champions. Everton, it's a tough one. It's a tough one when your European livelihood is on the line. But, I mean, you got to just be hoping City sits pretty much all their guys.
It'll be interesting to see who City plays because it's like you want your guys to be sharp, but you also want them to be rested for the Champions League final. So
Yeah. Sheffield, Burnley.
Oh, my God.
You want to talk about meaningless, folks. Sheffield already down.
Is Sheffield even going to
can't.
show up to this game? I mean, arguably, they haven't shown up to any games this season, but
They have 12 assists on the year.
they're terrible. They are one of the worst teams I've ever seen.
Oh, man.
They're right up there with Villa.
Oh, that one
A
year.
while
Villa went
back,
down.
they were
Yeah, when Grealish
tragic.
was their best player at 16 or 17.
Oof. Tragic.
Gabby Igban Lahore. With this, not a ton to look forward to. Could potentially be Dyche's last game.
I don't think so.
Sheffield going down. They're going to keep their caretaker manager, correct, in the championship?
I didn't see anything about
I
that. But
thought I saw that they were thinking about it, at least. I don't know.
It can't get much
The only
worse.
thing I saw was like who's in contention, who's Chris Wilder's in contention for. And I saw like the favorite to get him was West Brom. And I was like, really?
I feel like Chris Wilder is kind of those that like.
Like I would get the championship, but just West Brom, I just don't see it.
Yeah, I don't know. I think
Maybe
he's just so connected to Sheffield
That's
that it
why
has
I
that
can't.
magic, and like
Mhm.
if he goes to another team, it just won't be there.
That's what I was thinking. But I was thinking like he has to be ingrained in with the team, and West Brom is like the most dull team right now that there is. I mean, all
Yeah.
yo-yo clubs kind of are. But moving on, West Ham, Southampton. West Ham must get a result.
I think this one could be a shootout.
It could very well be. Both teams high in attack. It's just a matter of Southampton's on. Because I like what Shea Adams does, but sometimes the finishing just isn't quite there. It's not Ings level when Ings was on.
Right.
Do you think, real quick, before the recap show, Ings, is he moving? Yes or no? And just quick fire where, if yes. Because I think he is. I just don't know where.
I have no idea.
People have mentioned Man U as a backup or Liverpool as a backup, but
I don't think you'd go back to Liverpool.
I don't think so either for either of those.
Just didn't work out.
I don't see either of those. I would suspect
Should go to
it's
Arsenal.
probably 50-50.
I don't know.
He might just end up staying.
He can't stay healthy ever, so
Mhm.
I don't know.
That's true.
He
He's just a
could have
good
been
player
an
that
amazing
can't be.
player,
He
but
could have been. Last one of the year, even though it's at the same
at
time.
the
Wolves
same time.
plus
Plus 10 minutes.
Wolves Man U.
There's an oil spillage. There's 10 minutes added on because
All
Adama
the-
Traore is so oily.
All the fans ran on the field with their Mr.
Their green and yellow glazer out.
Yeah. Not much to take away. Man U already clinched second with the other results. Wolves are just going to throw Mr. Traore up there.
I think Wolves are just kind of like limping across the finish
line. They've probably just accepted. They're like, look at
This
our
is
main
not
goal
the
scorer.
season.
We have a good goal scorer in Jimenez. He will apparently be back, is what they're saying. I know that it was career threatening. I heard he might play with a helmet for the rest of his
Yeah, I read
career.
he will be able to come back. He's going to wear the protective headgear. The thing is, though, when you come back from that kind of injury,
It might just not be the same.
he
You
might
never
not
know.
be the same. I mean, could you really go after headers the way you did before?
Mhm.
I don't think I'd be able to do that.
Yeah, it's hard to say because some guys are just wired different. As far as Man U goes, I just want to touch on one thing. The announcer, not this week's game against Fulham, but some other game, the announcer said that Greenwood was like the most overreaction thing I've ever heard in my life. Is that Greenwood is the best finisher of the ball or best striker of the ball on Man U.
I think it's too small of a sample size.
Yeah, he could get there. That's what I'm saying. It's overreaction. He's 19, 18.
I think he's 19. But I mean, when you look at Man U, like Cavani, he's a quantity kind of guy.
Yeah.
He misses a lot of chances.
Yeah. But I mean, Rashford doesn't get worth 150 mil because he's a schmuck.
I think Greenwood might be a better finisher.
Oh, come on now.
Then, I mean, there is Nemanja Matic.
Oh, my gosh. But then who could ever forget Luke Shaw?
Fat Luke Shaw. You know what? I kind of like Luke Shaw now because he's kind of in the island of misfit toys with my guy Dan Byrne. Like, he's kind of fat.
He's just kind of weird. He's the Higuain of fullbacks.
He's kind of weird, and I kind of like that.
He's just a good player. He just wasn't as good as people thought. And, I mean, that's going to happen when you're 16 or 17 and make like a 30, 40 million pound move as a fullback to Man U.
Right.
So.
Yeah, I think he's kind of grown up and realized what he had to do to get back into the team. He wasn't playing under Mourinho, heavily criticized, but he really came back strong, and he's been maybe the best player for Man U this season.
This season?
He's up there for sure.
I would say the best just player when he actually plays is Dean Henderson. I would.
That's a hot take.
I would say he is.
I think he's a great player.
When he plays,
I don't know what's going to go on with that situation.
When I watch him, he's really good. And the advanced stat show, he's top 10 keeper.
I agree, but he's only played like.
True, he's not full time. We'll see him full time. I'm just saying, alpha last year. I think that's maybe I'm accounting that a little too much.
Well, I'm not giving the Man U player this season award to a goalkeeper who's a backup goalkeeper, but I think he's a great player.
You do that when you're in the Europa League final, and he's is he the cup keeper or is it De Gea?
I don't know. I haven't watched Man U play
in the
Europa League. I don't have that kind of death wish.
Yeah. Well, that'll wrap things up here. Next week we'll be obviously touching on the Matchweek 38 fixtures, along with what lies ahead for each club, and introduce the 3 semi-new, you know them before, but semi-new clubs into the Premiership. Until then, goodbye.
Bye.